What's up, everybody? It's Sparrow with a Gun here from Sleepless Nights with another episode on Elite Dangerous. When we left off in the last episode, we had course-corrected a little bit and are heading towards this nebula, which name Scouty, I guess? Not really sure what to call that. However, it is a little bit too far away for us at the moment. So our current route puts us about here, which is about 991 light years, I think, give or take. And luckily we have a pretty good route today in that I only counted one, maybe two stars that aren't scoopable. So that was pretty cool. Because it basically meant that we don't really have to work too hard at trying to...
Cannot comply.
Okay, fine. Why are my hard points out anyway?
Frameshift drive charging.
You know, we wouldn't have to work too hard at trying to make sure that we're at a scoopable spot or whatever. The only thing would be if we randomly, and it would be random, randomly, like, ended on that star that is not scoopable but needed to refuel and couldn't. That could be bad. So that's really the only scenario, but it's I think, like, probably close to 3/4 of the way down the route, so we shouldn't have to worry about it for a minute. And in the last episode, I did also bring up possibly getting into the beta, or not getting into, but doing videos off of the beta and showing some of the new features. However, I hit a bit of a snag. So it never was a big deal before, because I was always kind of in the same place, and I was always just kind of flying out, doing combat missions, and then coming back. But apparently, the beta actually, like, saves your character position and location and data and all that kind of stuff. I guess when the beta goes live, maybe? Maybe that's... I think that's what it is. But anyways, it was a further away. It wasn't like, hey, I can just take my current save that I am right here and then go jump into the beta. And then go off and do my own thing. So normally that wouldn't be a big deal because, you know, we'd, you know, be in the same spot or whatever. You'd lose a little bit of money that you hadn't made or whatever, something to that effect. This, however, in terms of exploration, was kind of a big deal because it had me all the way back to Herschel, which was quite a few jumps ago. I'll pull it up on the map here when we go to do a refuel, and I'll show you exactly how many it was, because I usually leave my bookmarks in place of, you know, where I jumped to. Or at least my distances type of thing. So it was a pretty good clip away. I think in terms of episodes, I want to say it was like 4 or 5 episodes ago, maybe. Maybe not. Maybe it was less than that. But even still, as long as this is taking us to go, I really didn't want to step back that far. The neutron jump gravity well thing would be cool, but from what I read, it's not really like... You'd kind of have to be going out of your way to increase the jump rate to then go back on track. So it may or may not be all that helpful, because they're not like, oh, every other star is a neutronian star, or a neutron star, or whatever. So with that in mind, it's like that would really be the biggest reason I'd be doing it right now, is to use the neutron stars or any kind of new updated things in order to expedite my exploration. But if it's gonna set me back that far and then not be that important to do, it's kind of meh, you know. I'll stick with this, and then we'll see how the beta thing ends up going when it actually becomes the live patch for the game. Now, one interesting thing though, I don't know. We talked a little bit in the last episode about me not really knowing a whole lot of the behind the scenes. Like, I don't dig into all of the developer diaries and stuff. I mean, I do at times if I see something and it piques my interest. But I rarely do if it's like, you know, like trying to dig up what they said on the forums or post questions or things like that. If it's some just big article or a newsletter, I've probably read at least the headlines of it. But I don't really like dig into this stuff like a journalist or something would. So I don't know exactly what's going on with the update as far as what they're... Because usually there's kind of a theme, right? Like I think it was the 2.0 patch was the engineers, or was that Horizons? That might have been Horizons. Yeah, let's go with that. Let's say...
Fuel scoop disengaged.
I think it was 1.0 was launch, 1.5 was like the engineers, and then I think 2.0 was Horizons? Maybe? I don't remember. I can't remember if Horizons was before engineers. I think it was after. But anyways, the current beta, though, is like 2.2 titled Guardians for Horizons, and then they have like beta 1.8 or something for the version of the game that doesn't have Horizons, which was like Passengers, both of which are interesting to me. Like the titles are kind of like, what are you guys planning? You know, what are these going to be about? Obviously the Passenger one seems relatively self-explanatory.
Fuel scooping.
It's probably bringing in like passenger missions where you can fly NPCs places. For any of you that remember, what was that game that I played for a little bit? Cosmonautica, I think. It was that kind of like ship Sims micromanagement type thing. And that one kind of had missions like that where you'd pick up passengers and you needed enough seats for them to be in your ship, and then you could go do all that stuff. So I kind of envision something like that. I mean, they'll probably use like the Orca finally for something other than me for target practice. But yeah, let's see. So we're here. We just left this region. Is this where we were? It was right around here somewhere. It wasn't exactly right there, but it was somewhere around there. So, you know, we're a good little clip away, and Herschel is all the way back here.
Fuel scooping complete.
So that would have set us back quite a few jumps. Now, I'm not saying all of these are jumps, because these are probably all fuel scooping points. When you consider that, like, this was where we started from today, and I haven't actually, like, been making it. So we have about this much distance for a 900 light year. So there's, like, I mean, I'm eyeballing it, but, like, 1, and then you could say something like 2... 3, I don't know. It was a good little bit ago that we were at Herschel, though, so it just didn't really seem worth it to me, especially with the advent of there wasn't anything really useful for my exploration endeavors other than the neutron star jump thing. But again, I got a couple of comments basically saying that they're kind of not few and far between, but they're kind of all over. They're not really like, you know, like a route per se that leads directly to the core of the galaxy or anything. Now, I did read an interesting comment, though. It was kind of a comment to a comment, I believe, that was talking about how it'd be interesting if at some point... I know they're already in the works of some people are trying to map out neutron star locations and things, but they were talking about how it would be interesting to have, like, a highway route, essentially, being done through those neutron star jumps to, like, you know, speed things up kind of thing. And I was like, that would be kind of intriguing, actually, if they could do something like that where, you know, if you could reach the jump, or if you could reach the stars and do the gravity jumps and all that kind of stuff, that it's like, you know, you could cut down on how many jumps you had to do, because you could go from, like, neutron star to neutron star kind of thing. So that is an interesting idea. Like, you could call it like the Neutron Highway or something. It would definitely be interesting. I'd be curious to see how it plays out, because I like that kind of... I do feel like that is kind of immersive for games like this that focus on their fiction.
Disengaged.
You know, I think of stuff like Star Wars and Star Trek and stuff where they talk about hyperspace lanes and trade routes and stuff like that, or the Outer Rim or uncharted space. You know, all those kinds of things are interesting, and so it would be kind of cool to see them do something like that, where, like, to get to Jock's Station or whatever, you'd have, like, you know, you could cut it and you could do it in 3/4 of the time or something if you took the Neutron Highway, you know, stuff like that. That would be kind of an interesting... Or, you know, yeah, I could see headlines on the Galnet of, like, and in later news, you know, pirates have been hitting traders along the Neutron Highway, you know, because it would become a popular route, because it could expedite things for exploration and trade out to further deep stations and things. You know, stuff like that. So it would be kind of interesting. But yeah, so that's pretty much why I didn't end up going to the beta, was if it had been able to just pick up where I was, I wouldn't have really cared so much. But because it's not, it seemed like a literal step backwards for not really a whole lot of reason. And you know, another thing that I thought of, actually, after thinking about it for a minute, I actually just thought of it, was if I had gone through the beta and then done stuff like gotten further and things, and then went back to the main branch of the game, that progress wouldn't have been there. So I would have just been floating out in space on the main patch type of thing, which that's not fun. That's not a good idea at all. So unfortunately, while I would like to expedite this exponentially, I just really don't think there's a way to do it. Literally the only way for me to speed up this process is to not film every little detail, and cut out a lot of stuff and do this off camera, and then just be like, hey, this episode we're here, fly around a little bit, hey, this episode we're here, you know. But beyond that, I really don't see a way for me to do that, as far as speed this up any. And I get it. I mean, a lot of people are probably thinking that at this point, where it's kind of like, you know, you're doing the same things, flying through the same places. That star looks the same, and that's true. That is true. But we've talked before. I mentioned it in 2 or 3 other episodes, where at the moment I really just don't have a lot of time to cut through a lot of the fluff and just get there and then just get back, kind of thing. As much as I would like to, I probably should try and start doing that a little bit more, just here and there, a few extra jumps, you know. But I really just haven't had a lot of time, especially with starting my newer series at the moment for Osiris. That's not even really on the schedule at the moment. I've kind of just been doing daily episodes, sort of, or just whenever I make one. Which has been kind of, I don't know. It's one of those games where... Okay, so here's the bottom line for me. The game is fun. I love the game. It's a lot of fun. My concern is longevity. At the moment, it has a structure limit, that how many buildings you can build. There's limited content. And so I don't know how long of a series I could run, as opposed to something like Space Engineers or Minecraft, or what's the other one? I guess maybe even in the same vein of like Subnautica, where you can basically do whatever you want because they're just giving you blocks. The Osiris is a little bit more of a structured game. It doesn't really just let you sandbox as much at the moment. It's probably one of those down the road. It might. But for now, it doesn't really give you a lot of freedom in what you're building. Like, you have a barracks, you have a laboratory, you know, as opposed to something like Minecraft or Space Engineers, where you literally just have blocks, and I'm building a room. What's the room? Laboratory, you know. And when you do stuff like that, it opens you up to where the sky is the limit, basically. And in Osiris, it's polished. Like, the look is way better. The graphics in it are much better than most of those games. Even like, probably even like Subnautica or something, because it's more fully formed. But because of that, it's a little bit more structured. in that you don't get to just build whatever you want, wherever you want, and make it however you want. It's like you can build this building, you can build that building, so on and so forth. So, because of the building structure limit and the number of buildings that you have available, I don't know how long I can run that series, which is part of why I've hesitated of making it like a quote-unquote series and replacing something or whatever, because it kind of was one of those, I'm going to turn around and replace it and then run out of things to do. So for now, I think I'm just going to keep it as a whenever I get episodes done, I get episodes done, and see how it goes. Maybe 2 or 3, 4 a week, something, I don't know. But here's the other thing. The developers have been patching it a lot and putting a lot of work into it. So I don't know if by the time I get through all of the current content, will they then have turned around and added more stuff? You know, that's the other flip side of the coin that has happened to me before, actually, where, you know, you feel like you ran out of things to do, and then the developers do something with the game that now you have more to do. I think the biggest limitation is the structure limit. Being only able to build like 10 buildings for yourself is kind of restrictive. But at the same time, again, I have to look at what's available. Like Habitat, Barracks, Lab. Pretty much the only real buildings you can build in that game at the moment. So it's kind of like, okay, you don't really need more than 10, and you've got all of the functioning buildings, kind of thing. Now, there are a lot of things you could do in terms of if you wanted to really just make it work, you could run around and plant beacons at every location, you know, just anything like that, but it's kind of one of those, like, why? It's more like trying to milk it when there's nothing left to get out of it, kind of thing. But so far, I am having a lot of fun with it. I'm enjoying the game. It's definitely fun, and it shows a lot of promise. And the other thing is, it is an early access game, which is like most things nowadays, unfortunately. But it's also, like, it came out like September 28th or something, so it's definitely in its infancy, where there isn't as many block types, content, things to do. Some things don't work, you know. We went over that in, I think, the last episode, that where I built a bunch of stuff and half of it didn't work yet. They have ideas of what it's supposed to do, but it's not doing them. So, you know, it's one of those, it is what it is. I like the game for what it is. I'm enjoying it so far. But I don't know how long I can keep it going at the moment, until they do some patching and add stuff and whatever. And there's a few games that, honestly, I just don't have time to play right now, but I'm curious about, and I probably should. I mentioned in the last episode I have a lot of projects going on behind the scenes, which is true. And it's impacting my video content, essentially, of like how much of that I can do and how often I'm not solely focused on YouTube as much as I used to be. And so it's affecting things. But there's a few games that I would like to play again, because there have been significant updates to them. And kind of like reboot the series or do another season or whatever. There's, you know, Empyrean was a fun game that they've added a lot to. I haven't really explored it as much as I could. Hardland was another fun one that it was still in its bare bones structure, and I guess they've done a lot in terms of the environments and NPCs and characters and quests and stuff like that. But that was always a fun-looking game. Looked like a Pixar game kind of thing. What was the other one? There was another one that I played for a bit. Grav was another one that, you know, we played for a while. And actually, that was one I don't even think we really ran out of the content. We just got the viewership kind of fell off on it. And like I said, there were newer and other things coming out that I actually wanted to play. I have been tempted, I'm not gonna lie, I have been tempted to do a series on the new Dragon Quest Builder, because essentially when I saw it, now this is coming from somebody who's never really played Dragon Quest, by the way, so I know it's a fairly decently popular series among fans.
Fuel scoop
I am not one of
disengaged.
those fans, I just never played it, not because they're bad or anything, I just never really tried it.
Frameshift
But
drive
I looked at it,
charging.
and I was watching a trailer for it and watched a review for it and stuff like that, and all I kept thinking was pretty Minecraft. That's all that kept sticking in my head, was it was like Minecraft with a setting and cooler graphics kind of thing. Which, honestly, is not a bad thing, because I love Minecraft. It's a fun game. I love modded Minecraft. It's a great game. But frankly, it's just ugly after a while. I mean, you can use texture packs and it'll work and blah, 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 and it's all good, but at the end of the day, it's still not a pretty game. I need to probably scoop here. Even texture packs and stuff. Like, I use texture packs, you all know that. Whenever I do a series, I usually use Sfax, because it's Sfax. It's awesome. But, so yeah, I mean, it's kind of one of those, like, I love texture packs and things, but at the end of the day, it's still, you're still a bunch of squares. You're still a bunch of squares. Oh, and actually, I just realized something. Somebody had made a comment the other day about turning my shields off because it would lower my heat, and I should be able to scoop more without overheating, which I thought was an interesting idea. Especially considering that heat damage and stuff doesn't affect your shields, it goes right to your hull. So that's an interesting technique that I hadn't thought to do or try. And it seems to be working, considering that we're at 570 instead of 500 and we're still holding at 65 degrees. Or percentage,
Fuel scooping
whatever.
complete.
Never really measured heat in percentage, but okay.
Fuel
So
scoop
that's something we might
disengaged.
do, because we're not exactly encountering anything out here. Though it'll be my luck that when that happens, or when I do that, then aliens will jump out of nowhere or something and attack me. I'm kidding, I know there's no aliens in here. Or are there? I do know there's artifacts, not that I've ever found one. Okay, so that one we're still clear.
4, 3,
I never actually have found the artifacts or whatever, but I know that they are in the game, which does speak to there being aliens eventually. But yeah, so, and I really should do. I really need to update my YouTube website at this point. It's pretty gnarly looking. I've mentioned a couple of times before that, like, I'm trying to branch out into some of the web design stuff and things, and some of the things I've learned, I go back and look at my website, which was basically just a free website. It wasn't anything, custom made or whatever. I went on to one of the sites where you could build a site for free and just used it. Used a template and stuff. So it was kind of one of those that, like, I look back on it now and I'm like, oh, this is so nasty. This is so bad. So I really need to redo it. But one of the things I've thought about doing is putting up, like, a poll on the website to where you could go in and pick, like, I'd like you to do, out of these games that you're thinking about doing, I'd like you to do this one. Kind of cast your vote, so to
fuel
speak.
scooping.
Because there's stuff, like, I don't have time to do all the ones that I want to do, frankly. That's just the bottom line. It's like, I want to do Empyrean, I want to do Hardland, I want to do Grav, I want to do Osiris, Ark, but, like, there's tons of games that I would love to do Let's Plays on, and I really just don't have time. I can if I lose stuff, like, eventually Witness will end. And I have to be honest, I personally don't have anything against the game. I'm having fun with it and I enjoy it, but I have seen a lot of viewership fall off with No Man's Sky. And that's probably it's probably due to the negativity surrounding it for whatever reason. I've brought that up before where I don't understand it, to be honest. It's pretty much exactly how I thought it was going to be, so I don't know what the big deal is. But nevertheless, whether I agree or not, there is a lot of negativity surrounding it right now. I read somewhere yesterday or something that it had reached, like, the all-time negativity record of on Steam reviews or something, and I was like, why? Okay, whatever. It ain't that bad, but so. Anyways, I'm assuming that the negativity surrounding it is probably why the viewership is falling off on it. Because, I mean, I've handled it fairly similar to how I handle most of my series, and a lot of people enjoy them and stuff like that. But it's kind of one of those, it's a little too coincidental when a series is not doing all that great in terms of views, and then you coordinate that with, like, you're doing everything else about the same way, but nobody likes that game at the moment. You know, that kind of thing. Because YouTube is kind of a popularity contest, basically. It's trying to get the newest thing, the thing no one's covering, you know, or not covering a certain way, or covering it differently. You know, it's, if you're doing the same thing everyone else is doing, then more than likely the already popular people are going to be watched, and the not so popular people aren't. It's just kind of marketing. But it goes hand in hand. If you're playing something that basically nobody cares about, then also you're not going to probably get as many views over something that everyone's looking for videos on, because it's the big thing right now. And I am toying with, I watched Final Fantasy 15 Kingsglaive last night, and I am toying with the idea of doing a Let's Play on Final Fantasy 15, because the game looks awesome. I'm not one of those people that has, like, played every Final Fantasy game or something like that, but I'm a big fan of the idea of Final Fantasy. Their stories, their art design, their character design, you know, choreography, just all that kind of stuff. The settings of all of their games are just awesome to me. I love them. They always do such intriguing and unique stuff that's just really cool. So I'm a pretty big fan of, and the biggest thing that always pulled me away from Final Fantasy games was the turn-based. Not that it doesn't have a place, don't get me wrong. Turn-based basically is the beginning root of all RPG, so I have to acknowledge it for what it is. But personally, I've always been a fan of action RPGs where you have all your character stats, you have all of your equipments and skills and attributes and modifiers and, you know, elemental abilities, all that fun stuff that makes RPGs what they are. But the combat is hack and slash. That's my, or over-the-shoulder shooter or something. So games like Witcher 3, Mass Effect, Fallout, Diablo, you know, all of those kinds of games where you're not really having to, like, do it through turn-based. And Final Fantasy, up until recently, has most of the time been a turn-based to an extent. They tried to do some weird stuff where it was an in-between. It was kind of a turn-based, but kind of real-time. But it's always kind of had its roots in, like, a turn-based team squad system. And then Kingdom Hearts was a big thing, because it pulled away from that a little bit and was more of an action. It did still have some, like, UI was still kind of like a turn-based in that you had to, like, select your, you know, you had to select your magics and things like that, but then there was hotkeys for it if you wanted them to, you know, fire from holding L1 and square, you know, and stuff like that. And then, of course, the actual, you basically could leave your selection button on the attack and button mash it, and it turned into a hack and slash type of thing. So it was kind of a really interesting go-between. It wasn't, like, exactly hit the square button for melee type of thing. It was hit X and select primary attack, but you can do it in real time, and it turns into a button masher. So that was a weird idea, but it worked. I mean, it wasn't a bad thing, it was just very different from a typical action hack and slash type of game. And I wasn't sure what they were going to do with it, because originally when it was Final Fantasy Versus 13, it was supposed to be action, because 13 was turn-based, and so it was supposed to be like the counter, essentially. But when they, like, rebranded it 15 and stuff, I wasn't sure what they were going to stick with. And then when they did, like, the gameplay trailers and stuff at E3, and it actually showed the UI and everything, and it showed them kind of with a Kingdom Hearts combat system, I kind of flipped out. I was like, they're sticking with action. It's like the best looking Final Fantasy game of all time ever, and it's an action RPG. I was like, okay, Final Fantasy, you got me, you know. Up until then, I was a little more like, I might rent them, I might play them, whatever, but I didn't really care for the turn-based. And then when they showed me it was like Kingdom Hearts combat with an actual Final Fantasy setting, and it's like the best looking one ever. Looks like you're playing Advent Children. I was kind of like, okay, yeah, I'm good, I'm sold. And then I love that I know some people are a little broken up over that they're seemingly, apparently, based on what we've seen so far, doing the same thing with the Final Fantasy VII Remake, that they're turning that into a Kingdom Hearts style. I could not be happier. I know people are like, it's not as authentic, it's not really a remake at that point because you're basically making the gameplay different, but for me, again, refer back to I like action RPGs, it was like, you know, because to be honest, I actually have Final Fantasy 17. I've never played it, like, completely. I've never beaten it or anything. Again, refer back to not a fan of the turn-based. I mean, I've played them. I played Knights of the Old Republic and stuff like that, and it's one of my favorite games. And that's mainly just speaking to the world and story and characters and stuff that just kind of overwrote my dislike of turn-based. And Knights was not officially straight-up turn-based either. It was more of a real-time turn-based in that everything took a specific amount of time to complete an action, but you could queue up actions and move around and do things. It wasn't like you get a turn, they get a turn, you get a turn, they get a turn. It was more just like it had a fixed amount of times to pull off maneuvers. So Knights wasn't exactly a turn-based either. But no, so when I was playing the Final Fantasy VII is just old. Like, I mean, just speaking very bluntly and honestly, it's old and it looks bad. And it may have been great for its time, no denying that, but now it's bad. And so it's like I was like, well, I want to play it. You know, it was on sale on Steam for like $5 or something, so I bought it a long time ago. And I went to play it, and I was like, you know, I want to play this. You know, it's one of these classic games. I really need to play it and find out what's going on and see what all the fuss is about. I mean, I generally understood the story, but didn't actually play through every little Easter egg, nook and cranny kind of gameplay of it. So I started playing it. That game is hard. I mean, I've played like tough games. I love Dark Souls and I platinumed Demon Souls. Played both Dark Souls 1 I beat all 3 of the Dark Souls games, almost platinumed all of them, but got frustrated over technicality.
Disengaged.
And so I've played hard games and survived them and stuck with them. Final Fantasy VII is hard. Like, I think I lost on the first battle, and I was like, I suck at this. I mean, not that I couldn't get the hang of it, I guess, eventually. But I definitely misused characters or something, did something wrong. It wasn't the first battle, it was like the third or something, but literally I played it for like 20 minutes and had died already and lost and stuff, and I was like, yeah, I don't really want to have to muscle through a really hard game that looks this bad, you know. So then when they said they were doing a remake that again looks like 15, plays like Kingdom Hearts, and has the story of the, you know, original classic game, I was like, where do I buy it? Where do I pre-order it? How do I sign? You know. So anyways, I am really tempted to do a 15 playthrough, but it's just such a big commitment because I know Final Fantasy games are big RPGs and they're going to be a long haul. So yeah, but do feel free to let me know in comments and stuff. I'll probably pull up a poll or something at some point eventually, but let me know what you guys think as far as any future games or any games that you'd like to see me return to, anything you'd like to see me replace, like if you're done with No Man's Sky, don't really care and would rather see Osiris become a thing, or Heartland, or Grav, or Ark, or something else, you know, just anything else. Or if you'd rather me kind of hold off for a few weeks and do like a Final Fantasy 15 when it comes out in November, you know, just let me know what you guys think, because I'm always looking for what people want to see. I mean, I kind of end up playing what I think would be cool, and then see how people react. But if anybody's like, you know, majority, I get like a bunch of comments that are like, you need to play this, I will definitely look into things. I mean, I can't guarantee it because I can't say I can afford stuff or whatever, or that I'll like that game. Some people want me to play something, but I'm not a fan of that kind of game. Just depends. But definitely let me know what you guys think. We are here at our target point, so I think we're going to wrap things up for this episode. But like I said, let me know what you guys think in the comments and stuff, or feel free to message me or whatever you feel like doing. In the meantime, I think that's it for today. We're going to wrap things up here. I hope you all enjoyed. If you did, leave a like, and I will see you all next time. Peace.